Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. There I was yesterday complaining about having stayed on South Africa, all this while, all of last week, and so we sort of were going to be resistant that we weren't going to go there. But the news just keeps on being center stage, and now that the South African president has apologized and as you've seen by now, he sent a special envoy over. The special envoy has indeed met with the president, Mr. Jet Radebe. We thought, well, let's look at it again, the issues that have come up, things that we were hearing before that, reparation is not in our constitution, it's not going to happen, which many felt was a bit dismissive. Now we're hearing that, well, when President Buhari does visit, that is if he still decides to visit, because I suppose it depends on if this apology from South Africa has been accepted or not. I don't know. I don't think it's a thing that you can just quickly, as a matter of course, accept like that. They have to know that you hurt us. You hurt us, and whereas we're still your brothers, we're thinking about it. That was just my personal opinion. And you'll be getting a bit of that personal opinion kind of a thing today because of our guests. The guests are not really guests. Let me just state that up front. Cyril Abaku and Okpeyemi Ashaolu, Dr. Okpeyemi Ashaolu, as a matter of fact, because, well, purloining entirely and barefacedly and shamelessly purloining journalists hangout. What would this one be? This one would be like TM hangout. This would be like a TM hangout. So thank you very much for coming on, Cyril.
Thank you.
Cyril is head of research, TVC News.
Thank you.
And Okpeyemi Ashaolu, Dr. Okpeyemi Ashaolu. May I call you Okpe for short?
That's fine.
That's cool. So Okpe is content and quality control editor of TVC News. So welcome, gentlemen. When guests fail from time to time, this kind of a device, this kind of a ruse might be employed. You get what I'm meaning. So there we go. Thank you very much for being here. And let's look at this important subject. And I guess we're going to be looking at it from a sort of a personal perspective. Yes, we are professionals. Yes, we are reporters. But I was hoping that we could have our hair down a bit. And we've heard the presidents, we've heard the ambassadors, we've heard the ministers, we've heard all the people who know a lot about it. Now from our own angle, because we're covering this, but we're affected. The guest failure today sort of gave us an opportunity to look at that aspect of it. What do I think? Are we overreacting, as has been said? Let me start with you, Cyril. What do you think of this whole situation? It looks like South Africa is penitent. You've been Radebe. No, that's the Radebe. What's the opposition leader in South Africa? Malema. I beg your pardon. Malema. Well, he's said it from the point of view of the Nigerian, but he was speaking as a South African, and he said very strong words that he was ashamed to be referred to as a South African. So thank God for people like that. And Nigerians were thinking that South Africa was being soft in their language, being evasive, that kind of. But people like him came out and said it the way it is. Nigeria has to bury the hatchet, not so. We have to bury this hatchet, no matter how painful the situation is. Would you agree with that?
I mean, if you look at how far we've come, some of us observed very keenly that the Nigerian government chose the path of pacifism, chose the path of nice, diplomatic niceties. We didn't, even the reactions we saw were street reactions. The Nigerian government was quite, was clear that it didn't like what had happened in South Africa. And so you had President Buhari last week, I think, also, ordering the evacuation of Nigerians from that place. But the fact is that we didn't come all out to shoot from all cylinders. Yes,
and when we talk about ordering the evacuation of Nigerians, it was the way it was couched again. Those Nigerians, okay, that are willing to come, arrangements would be made. So if it were an evacuation, you would continue there at your own risk. But the way it was phrased those that did want to take up the offer came, and there still are people in South Africa that didn't take up the offer.
Yes.
So would you also agree that, well, when he says the pacifist line that we're towing, there are Nigerians that are feeling that you didn't show a bit more aggro. People are taking us for a ride, and why are we taking it? What were your thinking?
I don't think we're being taken for a ride. We had a researcher from one of the universities in South Africa on our news yesterday night, Olushola Ogunobi, who said that, well, we still have Nigerians who are still going about their businesses and work and all what
In South Africa.
In South Africa.
Yes, Joburg seemed to be the problem area.
In fact, my
city.
own immediate elder brother has been in South Africa for over 20 years, you know, and he's still there, you know. But at some point, my father got disturbed, like, well, people are leaving South Africa. He said, nothing is happening around me.
Okay.
And
that will depend on his location.
Yes, yeah. You know, if he's in Cape Town or, you know, or places that is not Joburg. And we also took a man on one of our bulletins yesterday who said, well, these things are happening downtown, even in Joburg now. It's happening in downtown, not, you know, not anywhere around where he stays and things like that. So some people like that, some individuals like that who have who have investments and all what's not, they've built houses and all of that. And, you know, they find it difficult to leave because, well, the thing is not happening to them. The thing is not affecting them. That, well, why do I need to run away from here? The people I'm living with have accepted me as part of their own. And
well, have they accepted? Because the very definition, the very word xenophobia, which, by the way, Ubuntu is a well-known South African concept. And Malema was saying, and he didn't even need Malema to say, that what has happened is against the entire concept of Ubuntu.
Malema, in actual fact, they said it's not. This is not xenophobia. It's that this is self-hate. That you are hating people that are going to employ you in the nearest future. That he prays that he's alive.
You saw that video?
Yes, I saw the video.
So that you can come back and say, that, well, I warned you.
I warned you.
I warned you. This thing you're doing is well, one has to, well, it is just us speaking. So when diplomats are speaking, they don't speak like this.
No, they don't.
They don't.
No,
you know?
they don't.
So here we are just airing. In fact, we should put on the phones as well, so that, you know, the more the merrier. The way this program, you know, is turning out this morning, just getting our own vibes into the entire scenario. Now, former President Obasanjo, he's still clearly boiling. Nigeria should report South Africa to the AU, to the African Union. That seems to be, look, I know what we've done, and quite frankly, I'm a bit disappointed, and let it be said, I don't trust them. So let it be reported formally, let it go into the records, if, you know, the equivalent of minutes or records of those meetings, let it be in there officially that Nigeria has expressed its displeasure about its brother country, South Africa, you know. That would seem to be that that's still a bit of the hardline stance, right?
Well, you know, even I think Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, if you read
you're very right.
News, said
yes.
we should take them to the ICC.
The one-time DG of the Institute of
and then I think
International
later
Affairs.
on Foreign Affairs Minister.
And then Foreign Affairs Minister.
Yes. I think that, you know, to an extent, you want to agree with the fact that the xenophobic attacks we're seeing now are no longer looking like
one moment, please.
one-off.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but it is that kind of a program today. Chris is in Accra, Ghana, and wants to join. You're very welcome, Chris. Good morning.
Uncle Yore, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for your program. I've been enjoying it here. Today is my first time of getting through.
Oh, wow. When we lowered our hair, that's a beautiful entry. Welcome.
God bless you, sir. Yes. I want to comment concerning these South African issues.
Okay. The special envoy has just delivered an apology from the South African president to our president.
Yes, Uncle Yore, it's accepted. But I want to also thank Nigerian government for the role they have played and all that. But I want to say, Uncle Yore, I want to say that the apology to me is good, but it's not really enough. They should be able to compensate those Nigerians whose livelihood have been destroyed. Some of them have nowhere to start again. There should be some kind of compensation.
But did you catch
And
that
then
bit? Sorry, did you catch that bit where of the news where it was said that this matter will now be discussed between President Buhari and the South African president when and if our president indeed does go there for a follow-up meeting?
Oh, that's a welcome.
Yes, because before they were saying that there's no constitutional provision in South Africa for it. Now we've advanced to this stage where that matter has now been pushed to discuss it when the two big guys meet.
Oh, thank God for that. That's a welcome development. If that is done, I think it's well accepted. We appreciate that. I just pray that it will be done so that these Nigerians will not be totally lost out. We also know that it's not everywhere in South Africa that this thing is going on. But we cannot say because it's not everywhere in South Africa, the right thing will not be done again.
Exactly.
Yeah, obviously, we know that it's not everywhere, but we should not look at that and then, put aside the real issues that's supposed to be dealt with. So I pray that this thing will be handled properly so that people will also get back on track. Look at those guys that are coming back now. Some of them have nothing. Some of them are going to... They need a lot of help. So a lot of things really have to go in and all that. So, Gloria, thank you so much for your program.
Thank you.
And,
thank you very
God
much for
bless
being
you
a
so
part
much,
of
and
it.
Keep on the good work.
We'll do. We'll try to. Thank you very much for calling.
If I may, the argument of reparation not being in the Constitution doesn't hold water at all. What we should be doing, I believe they don't want us to take them to the ICC. They don't also want us to report them to the AU. If they're looking for a way out,
we will report them to the
we,
AU.
we have to.
We might not be able to swing the ICC part.
It's fine. So then it means that we cannot also rule out the possibility of a political solution. It doesn't have to be law. This is a serious moral question. Let me explain something. If you watch South African television, you will hear stories of an economic cabal, a local economic cabal. You know, after apartheid ended, there were calls for people to come and invest and help in the rebuilding process.
That's right.
To which most of our intellectuals, businessmen, scholars responded and are still embedded in the universities up until today. Nigerian scholars teaching in Europe and Asia and so on still go to South African universities for exchange programs, okay? Now, I think that some people, a clique, they are a powerful clique, now seized upon that opportunity to bring in illegal migrants from certain countries into their country also, who are not as educated as their people over there. This economic cabal will import certain products that are fake, look for illegal migrants who don't have, what to do, give it to them, and they can't distinguish between what is good and what is bad. They go and sell. So the government now turns these people into scapegoats, overlooking their own local businessmen who are actually, they cannot
contributory
exactly
to this particular problem.
If you want to take a holistic swipe at crime, you can go after it.
Exactly.
But to now operate a policy of selectionism does not work.
Yeah,
so,
I hear you.
Yes.
1 second, please. Joshua, thank you very much for holding on in Irewale.
Okay, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
You've always been very, very helpful to us, and I thank you with your guest there.
Thank you. My colleagues, actually.
Believe...
These guests are my colleagues today. We work in the same shop.
You have said it that it's another... this morning hangout?
It's this morning hangout. Without any shame. Prolonging Jide's program.
Yeah, we accept that. So, like I said, this problem is going to be solved through diplomacy. It's a matter of conflict and resolution of conflict. In the end, I think it will teach South Africans or Southern Africans to be more matured because we actually helped them to gain their independence. That shows that Nigeria is a level ahead of them. So it will teach them maturity, probably will pass the stage they are now. And it will also teach us the sense of magnanimity. I think we've done well. The actions taken by the government and the airlift of those Nigerians that are stranded in South Africa, that could be, you could consider them as some kind of problems in the country. The fact that we are moving them back is good.
Yes.
It will give room for the president to have a very strong ground to negotiate with his colleagues in terms of paying compensation to those that have lost their means of livelihood.
Sure.
I think that should not be an issue. But going forward, we should just understand that this is going to be solved on the table. There's no need for war over a matter like this. I really appreciate you, sir, and I pray that Nigeria will continue to take that leadership initiative so that Africa as a whole will be able to heal, and then will become like the big players in the world.
Indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. You know, the temptation is strong when you're trying to look for the root of this. Again, I go to the opposition leader in South Africa, Malema, Julius Malema, who said that in that particular speech that you also referenced, that I don't see you doing this to Asians. I don't see you doing this to Chinese. I don't see you, you know, maybe those Asians as well. But you know what I mean? That why is it that your black brother, why is it that, so he was angry. It wasn't the most diplomatically correct speech that he was making, but he was really, you know, ringing the bell of the Nigerians' hurt. And I guess if he were the foreign minister, he wouldn't exactly say it like that. But he spoke those truths right there, that what's going on here? How did this happen? These are the very people that, without which we would not have got our liberation.
That was why I referred to it as self-hate. That
Yes.
you are hating yourself by doing this.
So now I wanted to pull away from this. I know it's a very, very delicate and sensitive area, but look, there are Nigerians, it must be said, that don't make us proud, always. Thank God they're in a minority, and an almost insignificant minority. However, it only takes one drop of cyanide to poison an entire swimming pool, is part of the problem. And I don't know if there's a way that we, Nigerians that sometimes get involved in untoward things, can find a way to help our government, because government will have to take our part. But then we don't need to make their job as difficult as possible. When you're doing these kind of things that your government might be confronted with, look at this one, he did this. The other day in America, how many Nigerians did they say that they had found at FBI? 70-something?
77.
You know, those kind of things. These people are an insignificant blip. But when one drop of cyanide is dealing with a whole barrel of water, it's going to affect everything. Is part of the problem. So I know we don't often like to speak about that. In fact, when we do go there, we've said things like, but you see, there are laws. But you see, the problem is misbehavior is riling people around you, and word of mouth travels. You see a couple of irresponsible Nigerians, for example, doing something Facebook worthy as spending $100 bills anyhow and trampling on them and all of that. And these former freedom fighters that have problems with their own employment issues are seeing this and get the wrong end of the stick, don't they? So maybe we can look at the very sensitive subject of calling ourselves out, you know, as appropriate, although it doesn't override the entire discussion of the abominable behavior from one brother to another. Before you launch into that, please hold the thought, because I can't keep Yakub waiting any longer. Yakub joined quite a bit ago. Good morning, sir. Thank you for holding on.
Yeah, good morning, Chief.
Thank you.
And good morning to your colleagues.
Sure.
Good morning.
Chief, I quite agree with the former president of this country, person of President former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Nigerian government needs to report this South African government to the AU, because I don't see them stop this xenophobic attack. If they came to Nigeria and then they apologize to the Nigerian government, and then the apologize is accepted, and then if you now advise your citizens that remain over there not to come back to Nigeria and stay behind, Chief, I can tell you, these people will still continue what they are doing.
But not just apologizing, Yakub. We read in the papers that what 57 or something like that South Africans have been arrested. I might not be accurate with the number now, but somewhere between 40 and 60 South Africans, it is reported, have actually been arrested and will be prosecuted.
Yes, Chifiori, that is a welcome development. But that was not enough. Nigerian government should be able to follow it up to logical conclusion. Why am I saying that? They were saying that there is no law that pays any xenophobic attack on Nigeria or any other country, quote and unquote, in that state, in that country rather. There was no any law permit them to pay compensation. Is there any law that permit them to carry out xenophobic attack? So if there's no any law permit them to attack any citizen, any foreigner in that country. So there were no law that they said there was no law that permit them to pay compensation. So in that case, if there's no law permit you to attack, so there's no law even for you not to pay compensation. You have to pay compensation.
Thank you very much.
The government should be able to follow it so that they'll be able to collect compensation for all these guys that are coming back to this country. We cannot just leave them like that. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. But we've since moved away from that. It's not on our law books aspect of the compensation thing. As I said, you might have heard a few moments ago that now the position is that this matter will be brought up later. And in case you're just joining us, it's a quote-unquote special kind of an edition in the sense that we're all buddies here, a bunch of colleagues. When the guests just fail on you, it happens. We say, okay, fine. We're a talk shop. We can always do that. We'll just talk among ourselves. Yeah. So here we are doing something of an impression of the original Hangout program. But we call this one a TM Hangout. So, but before we had to go to Yakub, you were going to...
Akbar was going to make the
Yes. We have a lot of Nigerians who are doing so well.
Thank you.
We have Nigerians who are...
We never had problems with the Nigerian population in South Africa because they used to be originally academics,
yes.
many
of them,
highbrow workers,
yes.
and that kind of thing. It was when the ordinary people started to join and then had to find means of survival.
Yes.
That's when it began to come apart at the seams.
We have Nigerians all over the world. As much as some are doing, shady stuff, you have a lot of them who are doing well in their chosen field in, be it medicine, be it law, be it, we have a lot of people who are doing well. But like you actually said, the little ones, they are small, they are not that much that are giving us this bad names.
Yeah.
And when you now look at these things, that what does this tell about our people, about ourselves, about this country? It's not that we don't have these bad eggs amongst us, even at home.
Right now, at home.
We have them. But, we're
battling our own criminals.
Yeah, we have them.
But the problem is, if a criminally minded person gets his papers right and lands in South Africa and doesn't know anything but criminality,
that's what he's going to be doing.
The paradox is that, every country deals with foreign
One second, please. Okay. Let me not lose Pastor Elijah. Good morning, Pastor Elijah.
Good morning, Uncle Yori Folanin.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to you and your guest in the house.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Okay. On the issue of the xenophobic attacks on Nigerian and other African people, initially I am not okay with the position of Nigeria as a Nigerian government not launching a reprisal attack on them. But all along, I have to commend them for their maturity in handling the matter. Now, if the South African
you say you're not impressed, then you're commending.
They are coming in to apologize for the deeds. Is it going to end like that for Nigeria not to make them to pay for it severely so that in the near future, there will be no reason for them to attack other fellow Africans if they are to be reported to a government body in Africa that will look into this matter. I think it should be the best way because trust the Nigerian government with the people that have just returned, there might be nothing for them to live on. They are going to be stranded here. So if the AU or International Court of Justice could handle this matter well.
I hear you.
For the Nigerians to be compensated. And this will also serve as a lesson to the South African government and its people, so that they will stop this unnecessary attack and infliction.
Sure.
This damage is just too much. Looking at some of these things and looking at what their ministers are saying, their top government officials, it shows that the South Africans are backing their people to attack other indigenous African people.
All right, then.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, Pastor Elijah, and especially for that last point. The South Africans, their officials, quite frankly, their communication was horrible.
Look at the statement of that deputy.
Their communication was horrible.
Look at the statement of that deputy commissioner of police, or
the deputy police minister.
It was so inflammatory that
yes.
that people that foreigners can't be taking over 80% of your land, and then you said, this is unimaginable.
Those were the first knee-jerk reactions. Yeah, maybe people just swung into a sort of defensive posture.
But even at that, looking at the reaction of their police force to the attacks,
that's a problem.
Compare that with with what happened in Lekki.
Yes. Where police even shot a Nigerian citizen to death.
Because even some Nigerians abroad said, Nigerians have been attacked abroad, and then there was a kind of reprisal attack, and then Nigerian government now used Nigerian police to attack. I said, no, that it's about our culture, that we won't tolerate that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Our system does not. You can't do this here.
Now, what we demonstrated with that, where the police dispersed anti-South Africa protests that were violent.
Yes.
That is exactly what the South Africans don't do. The police are thought to be complicit in these attacks on foreigners, including Nigerians.
Yes.
Because, look, the part of the problem now is that all these apologies are fine, but at the end of the day, it is the people on the street that did. It's not every South Africa that will take part in this, but those that did take part and seem to always take part seem to have the knowledge that the police is not going to shut me down.
The 50 persons
the police is not going to shut me down
that they claim have been arrested is not a bargaining chip, because you can arrest, but you can prosecute and not convict.
Exactly.
And so the issue of arrests is immaterial.
But you can see how it's all diplomacy.
Well,
diplomatic
it's
all diplomatic.
Yes,
I'm putting things out for the rest of us to hear.
I want to believe that after Mr. Radebe's meeting with the president, our foreign policy makers, foreign policy experts should sit down in a room with their counterparts from South Africa and iron out what exactly is going to be done. The reality is that no parent entirely turns his face away or her face away from a baby, no matter.
Yes.
You can settle issues at home.
Yeah.
Because if you don't place value on a bad citizen,
yes,
you cannot assert value on a good citizen the day it comes after him.
That's right.
And so what we do is that we must sit down and make them realize that our citizens mean a lot to us. You see, these features, these sociological features had been there for a long time. Alan Part in 1940 wrote a book. He said, "Cry, the beloved country." Those same issues, those same issues, I think that Nigeria shouldn't just have assisted them to gain independence from apartheid and then left them alone.
Okay.
The baby was still crying and then we left them.
I got to take Prince Yola in London and start by apologizing for keeping you waiting. Good morning, sir. Welcome, Prince.
Yeah, morning.
Yori.
Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Hangout. Yes. Now, the thing is, you see, them apologizing now, I see it as a messing after death. You see, the government were there when they were not sleeping, when they were killing Nigeria. I did mean they've taken a radical or a good step. That thing will have been, they will have stopped it by now. You won't even get to the extent of taking Nigerians back, from South Africa home. Now, that happens there. So that's why I said it's messing after death.
Okay.
Now, I was listening to one of your stations. They said they're going to put them into jobs. And those that come from South Africa, they're going to put them into jobs in Nigeria. Now, tell me, a person doing a barbing or in South Africa, how will it manage to have a steady job to manage his business when there's no power in Nigeria? You see?
Well, that is also improving. Oh, that is also
yes,
improving.
I know.
Because you people can't just stay there and be saying that there is no this in Nigeria, there's no that in Nigeria. Things are not as bad as you guys sometimes say. Oh.
No. I don't think like that. Those who knows me knows that I come home every time.
Okay.
Uncle Yeri.
Okay.
I was in Nigeria last May.
All right.
And by God's grace, I'm coming soon, before the end of the year.
Okay.
So Nigeria is my home.
You keep close to home.
Those who knows me knows that.
Okay.
Yes, so we know what we are talking about. Now, what I'm saying is that if there's no power, how can they manage? Now, number one. Then another thing is, those who did not let there be power in Nigeria for years now, they are not looking into all these problems now. You see, what they are fighting for is Supreme Court, and maybe when they leave there, they go to Court of Heaven. This is our problem in our country. They are not looking into that now.
I'm sorry, Prince. I got to rush off on a break. I'm so sorry.
All right.
But thank you very much for calling in. Valuable insight. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So this is our hangout program because our guests, didn't show, but we've been enjoying ourselves nevertheless, and we've seized the opportunity to look at the whole South African situation, sending over as a special envoy. My special guests happen to be my colleagues, Okweyemi Ashaolu and Cyril Abaku. But we got to move on to something else. But the other thing that we can close with is. We were saying that, first of all, South Africans didn't say it right at all. The deputy police minister in South Africa, I can't remember his name now, but the deputy police minister in South Africa is saying that if we weren't careful, 80% of our population would be foreigners, and we might end up with a foreign South African president one day. The gentleman is a minister, for goodness sake. The problem, I think, is not so much getting the officials to understand and agree that this behavior is not.
And he was not fired.
Yes. Fired. Even His Excellency, the President of South Africa, did he outrightly, with annoyance, condemn
such?
Was the President also not using diplomatics and weaving and meandering in and out so that, it looked like he was, apologetic, but at the same time, he didn't want to, quote unquote, throw his own people under the bus. That's the way it seemed. But here we are now. We have this situation, and I see it on one of the papers here, that a South African official actually managed to accuse Nigerians of Nigeria of overreacting to the attacks.
Why would I react?
What do you mean overreacting? But those were the kind of careless language that we heard before. But I don't think following this visit that is going to continue. I started by saying that ultimately Nigeria is going to have to bury the hatchet. Just because that is our nature and our role in Africa. We're not about to throw it out on any mishap with our brother countries in Africa. So yes, South Africa has been very annoying to us. But guys, final thought, it's not so much the Ramaphosas and the ministers. That's not the issue. It's the ordinary people in South Africa that feel it is right to be able to target a Nigerian. How do you now change their orientation? That's where the police and all the coercive force of the place must be able to show that we have a zero tolerance for this. Very much like what our police did. They had zero tolerance for people demonstrating against South Africa in a violent way and maybe putting South Africa or South African interest in some sort of jeopardy. Before it was now explained that, wait a minute, these so-called South African things you are attacking, they're Nigerian things. These are franchises.
We owe the franchise.
So how do we get to the police? That's the big task. How do we get to the police and the whole legal system to say that we are a friendly country? We will not tolerate an attack on any foreigner. Whether he's white, whether he's brown, whether he's black, we will not tolerate it. That, I think, is the big one, because the police are also complicit in South Africa.
Yes.
So let me give you my thoughts.
Sure.
The police answers to political authority. So that's where you start from. Number one, I think the ANC should revisit its charter and add an article condemning xenophobia and saying that they will indeed become a proper rainbow nation.
Yeah.
Number two, I think that Nigeria remains Africa's big brother. And so what we need to do now is to see how we can reach out to the other affected countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and so on, get their foreign ministers, ambassadors to sit with us and formulate a common response. It will put South Africa on sufficient notice.
Okay.
So the response should be collective.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Nigeria is a frontline state. And like Cyril said, being a big brother in all of this, getting all these African states together, say, okay, well, this is our common front as regards this issue that happened. And when you look at it, fine, it's good for us to bury the hatchet. But those who have been through such things,
who have suffered loss,
who have suffered loss, and a lot of things in South Africa knows where the shoe pinches. They'll be the only one that can relate to, okay, well, this is how much I've lost when it comes to this and all of that. And when you now look at it, beyond the fact that some South Africans, because it's not all of them, behave the way they behave, it means there is a fundamental problem somewhere.
Issue. That's what has to be addressed.
Some people really need to, because if they don't, they will soon, taking it from what Malema said, that you are fighting your brothers. You are fighting a man that has a skin color like yourself. defending somebody, that the house you think that you rented, that they will come and chase you out of a place.
In fact, he said, and I think that's very instructive, that it's self-hatred.
Yes.
When you're attacking your fellow black brother and sister, that is self-hatred,
Yes.
if only you knew it. That's the orientation that these people, which they don't seem to have it naturally.
They really need to be.
They don't seem to have it naturally.
The way they behave, the way that thing came.
yeah.
Quoting Malema
Yes,
again,
sure.
when it came to our turn in South Africa to say thank you, we became animals. As I said,
That was the way he said
Malema
it.
doesn't
Yes.
use diplomatic
you see,
language.
He said
when I talked
But
about
you know, we're enjoying ourselves too much.
Sure.
I'm being told that we have to get out of the studio so that we can do some real stuff. But this is what it is. Let me thank you, gentlemen. Cyril Abaku, head of research, the TVC News, and Okpeyemi Ashaolu, properly called Dr. Ashaolu, content and quality control editor. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your perspective. It wasn't too bad. No, it wasn't too bad. Now we'll go and listen to the proper formal language of the ministers and the DGs and the. But we had our say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And we got a quick one we wanted to also air. We're talking about emergency management agencies. Now, everybody knows, well, I should rephrase that because we do go out across the country and also into and beyond. But most people have heard of LASEMA, which is the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency. Maybe not as many, speculatively now, have also heard of FEMA, which is F is for FCT, FEMA, FCT Emergency Management Agency. Okay, so it's like this. Abuja is the federal capital, and it has its own. It's like it has the status of a state. It has its own emergency agency. Lagos and all the other states have their own. Now, the FEMA DG is Alhaji Abbas Idris. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you.
Thank you. It's
And
my pleasure.
right next to him, and well, he's kitted out like a hands-on approach, and like there's an actual emergency that he's going to be addressing this morning. But it's all about communication. Dr. Oluwafemi Okeosanyintolu. He put in a "wa" there. I would have called him Femi, but he's now made it Oluwafemi Oke-Osanyintolu, DG of LASEMA. Great. Thank you very much for coming on as well. Now, Alhaji Abbas, you are the DG of the FCT Emergency Management Agency. You're in Lagos on a study tour.
Yeah.
To LASEMA.
Yes.
That's interesting. Tell me about that. The study tour. How is that, and what is it about?
Well, thank you very much. FCT Emergency Management Agency is just 6 years old, and LASEMA has been in existence, and they all have the technical know-how. They have the experience, they have the equipments and what not. And we feel that our collaborations and synergy shouldn't just start and end within the FCT. We should extend our hands to our sister organizations like LASEMA. I can tell you...
Is Lagos the most advanced?
Very well in terms of equipment and whatever. Where they are really
of all
ahead.
The emergency
yes, they are
agencies.
ahead of all other states. I have to confess that. And that is the reason why we have to come to them and learn the strategies. And also Abuja and Lagos, they are cosmopolitan in nature. And the kind of response they give in Lagos is similar to what we are doing in Abuja. Okay. So we feel we need to learn from each other. One way or another, we'll be able to add value to what we are doing.
Okay.
And that is basically the reason.
Okay, Femi, I can appreciate what Abbas has just said. I can understand that. What can LASEMA benefit from the Federal Capital Territory Emergency Agency? Because I imagine people are going to have to work together, cooperation, or is it that you guys are just sitting there as the big brother and everybody will be coming here and then we'll be teaching them and how to go about it?
A lot. We can learn a lot from the FCT Emergency Management Agency. Don't forget that Abuja is now a metropolitan and a cosmopolitan state. And not only that, that's where we have the presidency. So politically, we can learn a lot from the FCT SEMA. And in terms of synergy, collaboration, in terms of working together, there's a lot we can learn from the FCT. And the beauty thing is that it will always put us on toes to do better, not to relent on what we are doing.
Well, what kind of emergencies, for instance, you said the FEMA has been in existence for about 6 years.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of emergencies have you had to contend with in the history of the agency? And by the way, are you the first DG?
Yes.
Okay, you're the pioneering DG.
Yes.
What kind of emergencies has Abuja had to deal with?
Well, we have in common, we have flood, we have fire, and we have road crash, and building collapse. So these are basically the main common emergencies that we face on daily and annual basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the challenges in dealing with flood, for example?
Yeah.
Because let's say that's everything that you mentioned probably occurs in every state.
Yes.
But just take flood, for example. It happens in Lagos and it happens in Abuja too. Some people won't even, will be surprised to hear that. Well, Abuja, they flood as well. I thought it was a very dry area, the north generally. That's the...
Yeah, I'm sure people will really be surprised, especially when they see the setup of Abuja, well drainage, and a lot of ways of waterways that can take away storms water. But that is not the question. The question is climate change.
Okay.
Climate change affects every environment. So, and there is need for us to sensitize ourselves and get used to what it is there. Because some people, if you are talking to them about flooding coming or they have to relocate, they tell you that no, it has not been happening.
Because they've not been used to the scientific approach.
That is it. So that is a major challenge that we are facing at the moment. And we need to, attitudinal change is also majorly, especially for those who used to block the waterways, either by building or dumping refuse and so on and so forth.
I was going to suggest to Femi that first of all, I was going to ask if you are sensitive in Lagos to the climate issue that Abbas just brought about, or if our main concern is the latter part of his contribution, which is that building over roads, dumping refuse in gutters. We know of that because you guys have been very vocal about that. That is to stop doing it. So we know well about that. But the climate change one that he brought in, first of all, can you relate to that, and does it affect us in Lagos as much?
It affects us. It affects everywhere. And that is why in Lagos State today, we are putting a lot of things in place to reduce the impact of the climate change. And the climate change comes with something like drought, flood, and it has its own...
When you say climate change and floods, is it that the rivers swell, overflow their banks, and then flow in? How does climate change affect flood?
Okay, if you are looking at the really etiology of flood in our community, you will discover that there are a lot of factors in place that always cause this flood. And one of the key causes of flood is due to the climate change. What do we mean by climate change? We mean that the ozone layer, there is a green gas being produced, which leads to high production of rain, and it's allowed the rainy season to prolong. So with that, the absorption of this water, which always affects our society, and that's one of the reasons that sometimes we do experience flood. And Lagos...
And sometimes Lagos issues these advisories, which, Abbas was also talking about, but he said that people are not generally used to such when you have to relocate, because you have tools at your disposal. You have satellite imagery, satellite information, so you can tell them. Yeah. Although I imagine that as Muslims there might be a problem about that. Say, how do you know what's going to happen tomorrow?
No.
How do you know? No. How can you be talking for the Almighty?
No.
That part of it is taken care of.
It's taken care of. Very well.
And in fact, the federal government agency like NIMET, like NIHISA, they've made some predictions.
Please continue.
They've made some predictions concerning rainfall in our states or in our community.
Okay. I'm sort of happy to hear this, because sometimes you hear this kind of news that two emergency management agencies are actually cooperating with each other. And I imagine that the field might widen. It might be that you have a sort of, maybe along down the line where I think permanent secretaries generally get together from time to time and have a meeting of permanent secretaries. Yeah. But these specialized agencies also now coming together to share experiences. And Lagos being in the envious position of being seen as a front runner, a forerunner of all of this kind of a thing. And then Abbas, as the DG, joining in to say, look, how can we exchange stuff here and benefit each other? I think that's highly commendable. I can only greet you, Alhaji.
Thank you.
How long are you in town for this study tour? By the way, are you here with some of your directors?
Very well.
That's the way it works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I came with all the team.
Okay.
Both the response team and the administrative team. To really study and see what they are doing, what we can improve, and what we can even adopt that is not in our existence.
Sure.
And we'll also avail LASEMA what we are doing. If they are interested, we can also come in and collaborate and make sure that things work well.
Because emergency management response professionals must be seen as one tribe across the nation, wherever they are.
That is most important. That is very important. And you see, this synergy is very important and collaboration. There could be a situation whereby I will be overwhelmed and he has the capacity. I will quickly call him. Despite the distance, we can be able to mitigate and salvage a little part of the disaster. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. I remember when there was a fire in Kano. Everywhere they were looking for support from where. Lagos, LASEMA has the capacity to really move in because it took about 48 hours before they extinguished the fire. Okay. So in that situation, we have to really call ourselves and quickly respond. He might have some agencies that have been assisting him in Lagos. Meanwhile, they are in Abuja. I don't have the knowledge about it. He can contact them and say, please link up with this organization and we get the support. That is the essence.
You know what just came to my mind as you were speaking? It's like the police formations could be. How one formation can reach across some other formation across the country and say, look, we need this assistance, whatever.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Well, we don't have the time, so we'll probably do this again, but it's a very, very exciting idea.
Thank you.
And it also shows to all Nigerians that there are efforts going on. Not all of them are front page news items, but they're very, very important and very valuable to know as well. Absolutely. So I want to thank you, gentlemen. And welcome you, Alhaji Abbas Idris, to Lagos. But how long are you staying? When are you going back?
As soon as he releases me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oluwafemi Okeos. DG of LASEMA. Thank you very much as well. Appreciate you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.